Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another daily dose of Amonkhet spoilers, and I have to say, today is by far the best day of Amonkhet spoilers we've had yet. So many insane cards to talk about. This is just an awesome day. Awesome. I'm so excited for this set. So, because we have so many awesome cards, we got to get right to it because there is a ton to talk about. First off, we got Planeswalker number 3, and this is one of the most unique Planeswalkers we've maybe ever seen. Nissa, Steward of Elements. So first off, you probably noticed, no starting loyalty and X in its mana cost. So Nyssa, you pay blue and a green and X, and you get X loyalty when it comes into play. So this can be a 3-mana Planeswalker. It can also be a 10-mana Planeswalker, and it scales extremely well depending on how much mana you play. So, +2 you get to scry 2. Not super exciting, but it helps set up the 0, which is the big calling card of Nissa Steward of Elements. You just look at the top card of your library. If it's a land or a creature with converted mana cost less than the loyalty counters, you get it directly on the battlefield. If you play this for 3 mana, you can just put lands in 1-drops onto play every turn. You just keep flipping, as long as it's a land or a 1-drop on top. Of course, if you can play this for like 8 or 10 mana, essentially any creature in your deck is going to go directly onto the battlefield with the 0 ability. So what is this like? And it's really hard to say. The ability is so unique. It's sort of Aid from the Cowl-esque, a little like Lurking Predators or Into the Wilds. And the thing you probably notice is all of these cards are like 6-mana enchantments, 5-mana enchantments, or they're limited. Into the Wilds is 4 mana and it only gets lands. Lurking Predator, 6 mana, only gets creatures. So Nissa is potentially just better than all of them. Not just because of the flexibility of being a Planeswalker and doing other things as well, but because it's cheaper. You can play this for only 3 mana and then add more loyalty to it by scrying 2, which also sets up your ability to get a creature that it can hit with the 0 on top of your deck. So many awesome aspects of this. So I'm super excited for this. It's hard to evaluate because it's so unique and know exactly where it'll fit, but it looks like because of the scalability, it has a lot of real potential. The other thing is, it's sort of the blue-green Searing Wind. If you look at the ultimate, you get to untap 2 lands, they turn into 5/5 elementals with flying and haste until end of turn. That's 10 flying damage going at your opponent's face. Assuming your opponent doesn't have any flying blockers, you just 10 them, and to -6 right away you need 8 mana, and that's basically Searing Wind. 10 damage to a creature or player for 9 mana, except it's in blue or green, so if you can ramp into this and just immediately -6, it's an awesome finisher. Theoretically, with 8 mana, 2 Nissas, back-to-back turns, you just kill your opponent out of nowhere. So not only does it generate a ton of value as the game goes along, it provides this awesome finishing power. So I am super excited. We've never seen a Planeswalker like this. How good will it be? It's really hard to say just because it's so unique, but I have a lot of faith that because of the flexibility, the scalability of the mana cost, good in the early game on turn 3, good on turn 10 when you can pay it for all your mana, that Nissa is going to be very strong and constructed, and I'm excited to test it out. Speaking of exciting, we have god number 4, Rhonas the Indomitable, and you know Nissa must be good because it bumped the god from our first slide and down to 2nd place on the day. And that's especially impressive because Rhonas is probably the best god we've seen so far. 3 mana, you get a 5/5. For it to be able to attack or block, you need a creature with power 4 or greater, and another creature with power 4 or greater, and then you can pay 2 and a green to pump up a creature. So this is a very aggressively costed god. Death Touch makes it great on defense, hard to block on offense. It is just very, very strong, very aggressively costed. The question's going to be, how easy or hard is it to turn on? And I think the big thing that sticks out is it's kind of a wombo combo with Heart of Kiran. First off, you can always use it to crew Heart of Kiran in a pinch, but more importantly, Heart of Kiran by itself on turn 2 turns on Rhonas on turn 3. Let's say you played a Toolcraft Exemplar on turn 1. You use that to crew up your Heart of Kiran, then you use the Heart of Kiran's for power to turn on the Rhonas. That's 9 damage you're attacking with, and it's really hard to deal with. So, Heart of Kiran's pretty scary. We'll see if it survives the next round of bannings in Standard, but it seems like a great combo. Discounting Heart of Kiran, it's actually a bit tricky to just play a creature with 4 power in Standard. Standard. If you look over the most played creatures in Standard, lots of things with 3 power, not too much with 4 power directly, just on their face. The most playable that we have right now, Tireless Tracker, Bristling Hydra, Verdurous Gearhulk, so you could obviously play Rhonas in some sort of mono-green beatdown deck with these cards. Tracker, of course, you got a stack of Clue, but that's usually not too hard, that's what you want to be doing anyway. The neat trick, though, is Rhonas can actually turn on other creatures, and Servant of the Conduit, Long Tusk Cub, Rogue Refiner, these creatures are in like the 5 most played in Standard. Maybe not Long Tusk Cub, but Servant, Rogue Refiner, very top of the format, and with a Rhonas, you can just pay 3 to turn your Servant of the Conduit into a 4/2, which not only makes it a better attacker, gets in more damage, but it also turns Rhonas into a functional creature because you have the 4 powers. So Rhonas synergizes nicely with itself, even if you don't have a creature with 4 power right off the bat. So it seems like by far the strongest god so far. Still got the black one to go, so it could get unseated, but as of now, I think Rhonas is the best god we've seen from Amonkhet. Next on our list, we have a parade of zombies. We got 3 different zombies previewed today. First off, Dread Wanderer, sort of a Gravecrawler, not as good as Gravecrawler at coming back from the graveyard. So the upside is, Dread Wanderer, apart from being a Jackal, which is pretty sweet, can actually block, which a lot of these recursive creatures cannot do. Scrap Heap Scrounger, Gravecrawler. The downside is, it's 3 mana to get back from your graveyard, and you have to be Heckbent, which is apparently the new name for having 1 or fewer cards in hand. If Hellbent is 0 cards, Heckbent 1 card. So it's sort of Gravecrawler-esque. More importantly, it's just a good zombie 1-drop. Lord of the Accursed is the latest in a long line of powerful 3-mana zombie lords, even an uncommon, so you should be able to get it cheap for your casual zombie decks. And it not only pumps up your team, but you can also tap it to give all of your zombies menace and make them hard to block. The last zombie we got today is Plague Belcher, which is odd. It is kind of hard to analyze, but it can be very big. Mostly though, I'm excited about the full package. We are very close to having enough zombies to having a tier 1 zombie deck in Standard, or at least like a tier 2 zombie deck in Standard. With the new additions that we saw today from Amonkhet, we have 2 great 1-drops with Crypt Breaker. The thing we're mostly lacking is a second 2-drop. We have Relentless Dead. 1 more would be good. Maybe Heart of Curate or something. Diregraph Colossus gives us another pseudo-lord in the 3-drop slot. And then we can even top that off with Liliana Death's Majesty, the zombie planeswalker. So definitely exciting for casual zombies, but I think we're pretty close to having a real zombie deck in Standard, which is pretty sweet. Next on our list, we have a card that's not super exciting for constructed play, but really important nonetheless, and that is Niib the Worthy, which is the long-desired Minotaur legend, which makes Minotaur/Warrior even tribal in EDH an actual possibility, and the card's pretty sweet. It can be a lord if you can get Heckbent down to 1 or less cards in hand, gives all your Minotaurs +2/+0, gives them first strike as well no matter what, and when it deals damage to a player, which if you're playing this in a 4-player format, you just attack whoever, you know, doesn't have a blocker, you get to discard a card, along with everyone else who's playing, which is pretty sweet, so you can attack the person that doesn't have a blocker and make the entire table discard a card, and you get to discard a card, which helps you get Heckbent to turn on the Lord aspects of Niib. So, of course, this is mostly important because we got a ton of sweet Minotaurs and Theros, but they haven't had a legendary to make them really playable in Commander. But we got other lords like Rageblood Shaman, Ragemonger to reduce costs, Kragma Warcaller is also a pseudo-lord. Of course, you could also play these in Modern, where it's obviously the best deck in the format, at least if you're playing against me. Just don't forget your Diabolic tutors. And I think what I've tried to say is this means get your didgeridoos now so you can slam some Minotaurs for free into play for only 1 mana and 3 to activate. So I expect that people are going to want to try Minotaur Tribal in Commander now that they have a Lord. Next on our list, we have Pyramid of the Pantheon, the new 1-mana mana rock, and it's kind of the world's slowest Gilded Lotus, and that's kind of a theme we've seen somewhat with Amonkhet, is the world's slowest. As foretold, it's like the world's slowest Omniscience. Pyramid of the Pantheon eventually will be a Gilded Lotus, but you have to spend 3 turns or do some tricks with Proliferate and stuff to get counter counters on it, but you gotta spend 3 turns paying 2 and adding a mana. So you're kind of paying 1 because you can use the mana that you add, and the end result is you get a Gilded Lotus, which is pretty powerful. I'm mostly excited because this seems like another great mana rock to use with Paradox Engine, and I'll use any excuse I can get to build around Paradox Engine because it's so fun to combo off with. Next, we have a couple more Aftermath cards. Heaven to Earth, Reduce to Rumble. Heaven to Earth is kind of a combo of Hurricane and Earthquake. Of course, it doesn't deal damage to players, which is important, and I think this card would actually be better if you just had the Earth side. The way I see this is Heaven is the downside. You gotta have green mana in your deck. You have to pay a green mana at some point to get Heaven into your graveyard, and then you can use Earth as sort of this pyroclasmy effect to wipe away the board. The other one we got is Reduce to Rubble, which is kind of a convolute on its front side. The back side is just odd. We haven't really seen an effect like that. It's kind of a Time Walk-esque effect in red where 3 lands don't untap. So on turn 3, that can potentially make your opponent skip your turn. Hard to evaluate how good that is. The counterpart isn't great, so I think Rubble has to be good because Convolute doesn't see any play, and we have Disallows and Void Shatters, which are just upgrades on Reduce. So we'll have to see if Rubble is enough to make people play Reduce in their deck over some of the better 3-mana counters. We saw Renewed Faith a couple days ago, the uncommon cycler that does something when you cycle it, and we found out that this is an entire cycle. Each color gets one. These are mostly limited only. The blue one, the black one, the red one are fine and limited, not good enough for constructed. The one I'm excited about is Sheffet Monitor, the green member of the cycle, because it's pretty close to Crows and Tusker. Crows and Tusker is a really awesome, really fun card. Play it in cube, maybe it constructed in the right deck. The cycling is 1 more. When you cycle it, you not only draw a card, but you get to search for a land. The upgrade of Sheffet Monitor is that the land goes directly onto the battlefield, and you can even get a desert if you want to. So it's pretty sweet to see Crows and Tusker, or something close to it, back in Standard. I expect that this will be awesome in Limited, maybe playable in Standard in the right build. Speaking of deserts, you're probably wondering, what are we searching up? What is this desert card? And it's Scorched Desert is at least the first desert we've seen. It's another land type, not very good, but it's kind of a callback. It's a flavor card to the original desert from Arabian Nights. We also have some more commons and uncommons to wrap things up today. Cryptic Serpent might have a home in a Bedlam Reveler deck, something else that you can cast for really cheap if you have a lot of instants or sorceries. Doomed Dissenter might be the second 2-drop for the zombie deck, even though it's not a zombie, because it's essentially a Butcher's Ghoul. It's a 1/1 for 2 that comes back essentially from the graveyard as a 2/2, and the 2/2 is a zombie, so even though the front half isn't good, you can chump with it, maybe sacrifice it to something, and end up with a zombie. Quarry Hauler could maybe make a deck with Maulfist Revolutionary, give some redundancy with that effect, and then just some random limited stuff. Unburdens of Mind Rot, Grimstrider can be really big if you can get Heckbent, or even Hellbent is even better. And that is our daily spoilers for Amonkhet for today. So what do you think? How insane is Nissa? Where does this fit in Standard? Is the scalable mana cost and loyalty going to be a big deal? What do you think of the Green God? How about the zombies? Do we have a zombie deck for Standard now? Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.